Welcome to North Dakota.
It's a huge undertaking.
Got it?
We are going to take Lewis and Clark and turn it a bit on its head.
Singers, come out here, look at the floor space.
This is going to be really one of the best signature events along the whole trail.
People that are ushering you in.
That's what's so compelling. The story of people.
That's your great-great-grandfather up there.
Right there.
Production funding for North to the Mandan Nation is provided by a grant from USDA Rural Development and by the members of Prairie Public.
Welcome to North Dakota, and welcome to the National Lewis and Clark Bicentennial Signature Event. Today is a special day, a proud day for North Dakota.
This has been long in the planning, but now as it's beginning to unfold, I think it's going to create a great deal of tourism in our state. And I believe that with this signature event and the signature event, the three affiliated tribes, I believe we're going to see a dramatic enhancement in tourism. And it's going to be good for our state, good for our economy, but more important than that, it's just good for the soul to be thinking about who we are, what our culture is, how we relate to one another as people. And this is just a great moment, I think.
What's different about North Dakota is the engaging way that Lewis and Clark spent their time here with people, the Mandan and Hidatsa. It's our unique story. And of course, it just doesn't get any better than a young teenage girl walking into Fort Mandan one day, several months pregnant, with her husband who's offering his services to the expedition, a couple of buffalo robes brought as gifts, and from that day forward, Sacagawea stepped into immortality.
She was probably 16 or 17 years old, and very early on...
We talk about her today, 200 years later, this young Indian girl who then joined them on the expedition, carried that baby on her back across the Rocky Mountains, out to the West Coast and back again. It's an incredible story. You couldn't make it up and get away with it. And yet it's a story that originated right here in North Dakota. And that's what's so compelling. The story of people. Not just pretty landscapes and a river. That's all great, and that's a very big attraction for us. But it's about the human drama. That's the story we have to tell that will forever engage people and draw them to our part of the Lewis and Clark Trail.
Steady on the count.
Here in North Dakota, we have two National Heritage Signature events. In order to be awarded a signature event, you really needed to have capacity, and you needed to have a story that really rose to this national level of significance.
Great job, guys.
It's fitting that North Dakota has more than one signature event because Lewis and Clark spent most of their time here. This was their destination.
The National Council of the Lewis Clark Bicentennial put out a call for proposals for signature events around the country. And I was tagged to be part of a very small committee to plan what Bismarck Mandan and our area would do for that event. And we came up with this concept that we called the Circle of Cultures.
Lewis and Clark Trail, and people want to go back to the places that Lewis and Clark visited 200 years ago. And during this commemoration, people are wanting to go back and sort of experience the same adventure that Lewis and Clark experienced with the Native peoples 200 years ago. Well,
We are going to take Lewis and Clark and turn it a bit on its head. We will have all the reenactors and the scholars and the encampments, but we're going to add a lot more to the story. We're going to tell them about the Native American hospitality and heritage and culture that they found when they got to what is now North Dakota. So besides presenting the expedition story, we're going to present the story of the thriving, trading, agricultural-based society that they found with the Mandan, Hidatsa, and the Rickaron. We're going to tell the story of then And we're going to tell the story that now these nations still exist here in North Dakota and are prospering.
Well, many of us Native peoples are the descendants today of all of those tribes that Lewis and Clark met 200 years ago. And there are certain places on the Lewis and Clark Trail that are still there that you can still visit.
So we have Lewis and Clark history, we have Native American history, we have song, we have dance, we have scholars, we have demonstrations, we have reenactors. People will be entertained while they're learning, and it's gonna, really present North Dakota in a positive light.
Clay Jenkinson or Amy Mossett at 2:30.
Oh, Amy Mossett is so awesome.
I know, I've heard both.
Well, the number one reason people come to North Dakota is they come to attend a festival or an event. Well, that's after visiting friends and relatives. Number one reason for travel worldwide is visiting friends and relatives. But people that come to visit North Dakota, the number one thing they do is attend a festival or event.
When you cock it back and you pull the trigger, you're going to make a spark.
I think we all feel that this is going to be really one of the best signature events along the whole trail.
This is where Captain Lewis, he stays here, and Captain Clark, he stays here.
Everyone wants a chance to put the spotlight on where they live and why they live there, and what it means to them to have visitors there.
Hold them against each other, and now the kids start twisting one way and the adults twist the opposite way.
People are looking for a real adventure, and they are looking for authentic kinds of experiences.
Looks like the American flag. So they're going to start to twist up.
People who are traveling today don't want to just sit and watch, and they don't want to read text off of signs. They want to do things. And so hopefully when people come into our part of the world, we'll be able to engage them.
He's going to be in the right family now. They're a weasel. These are called ermine.
Tourism is the second largest industry in North Dakota. Tourism generated over $3 billion in 2002. Fastest growing, made up 29% of North Dakota's economic base.
His name is Four Bears. His enemies, I believe, called him that because he was very, very ferocious in battle. That's a pretty good name to have, don't you think?
80% of folks that travel that will take in a historic, a heritage, or a cultural attraction or event while they're traveling. They may do the water slides and golf too, but that is a big portion of the activities and the agenda that they're planning when they're coordinating their travels.
Wow. There it is. Isn't that beautiful? That's your great-great-grandfather up there. Right there.
The great thing about tourism, first off, heritage tourism particularly, is it gives you the economic justification to do the things you want to do anyway. You want to build these museums and have these living history facilities, and you want to turn back the past. You want to maintain and preserve things for your grandchildren. What is great about North Dakota and what attracts people to it is it's unspoiled, clean, wonderful place, safe place. If we go in the realm of tourism, we can maintain that. We can invite people in, pick their pockets, and send them happily on their way with the memories of being in this wonderful place, but we don't end up with overcrowding, pollution. Tourism is the cleanest industry that can be brought to us. It's tougher to participate in the global economy of selling widgets, but it's very easy to participate in the global economy of selling memories, and we've got great memories to sell.
So once you put it in there, and there you have it. Fire from a flint and steel.
We challenged the community. We said right off the bat, we don't have all the ideas. We'll put on this core program, but we think the whole community should blossom and figure out how to commercialize it and how to add to the educational value of the program. And people have really caught the spirit. To some degree, it's almost scary.
So everybody be ready. Some of these we haven't done yet.
The signature event itself, what we hope to bring is the perspective from Mandan, the Hidatsa, and the Arikara. The Dakota Plains Dancers started back in 1992, and it coincided with the North Dakota's bicentennial.
Where's Mike? Eagle dance. What's after that?
Wade Baker, who was the dance captain for the American Indian Dance Theater. And Wade had come back to North Dakota and was interested in getting a group started that would be able to do different dance interpretations of the tribes of this region.
That's right there. That's good right there. Guys, can you guys remember that?
Well, I think what sets this dance performance apart is that this really was a grassroots effort. You'll notice that in the cast we have a good deal of them who are in either junior high or in high school, and then we still have some of the remaining original members who are now adults, and some of their children will be dancing in one of the scenes that we have, and they're like toddlers up to maybe grade school. So it has been a growing experience for us, not only in terms of our own emotional growth, but also in the dancing that a number of these dancers have went on to become champion dancers. For me, I hope the lasting legacy will be that the youth that are now growing up will come to appreciate the sacrifices that our ancestors, our grandparents have made for us, so that we would still have a cultural identity that's intact and that we're proud of. And so it would be great that we could have more visitors, but you know, when they're gone, we're still going to be here. And I think that's the thing that I want to carry on, is the pride that we have in who we are.
This is the Rickeraw Lodge. I know you guys are Rickeraw from White Shell. And then we roasted it before we dried it, so I'm sure all of you guys. So from White Shell, you've roasted corn. They did, yeah.
Economically, it's going to certainly be a boost to businesses and retailers, and all of that comes right back to the state of North Dakota. So economically, it will certainly have an impact. But there's also a lasting legacy. The things that are going on for the signature event are not going to necessarily just go away. We've got earth lodges that are being built, and those will not only be at our signature event in Bismarck, but they'll go up to the Newtown signature event. And after that, they'll be donated to the tribes there. So those earth lodges will be a lasting legacy.
You know that these are built by the women own them. You can sit on them, you move this around, you know, laying back as far as you want.
I have a real commitment to trying to build these things as historically accurate as we can, out of respect for the people that originally did it, because I do have a lot of respect for them. They were able to do things that we have a difficult time duplicating, even with all the tools that we have. And on account of the smallpox epidemic years ago, a lot of the oral tradition information that the Mandan Indians had has been lost. So really we had nobody that we could actually go to and ask any questions about it. So we had to do a lot of research. I just did hundreds and hundreds of hours of research, libraries, even as far as Smithsonian. From my perspective, those people were impressive. As an example, in Honest Land Village, we know that they had to be doing between 8 to 10 earth lodges per year in order just to keep up with the decay. They only had 8 to 10 years lifespan. So the amount of materials and working with the kind of tools that they had, I mean, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall back then to see how they were doing it, because even with our equipment, and we have trucks involved, there's tractors, there's saws, and you know, every manner of tool. Basically anything that you could want to deal with these kind of logs, and we can still only do it so fast. I just am continually awed by what they did with only bone tools and stone tools.
Over 1,000 people live in 86 lodges. Some areas of the village are densely packed. Women own all of the domestic articles, as well as the gardens and dogs. Men own their weapons, clothing, pipes, and horses.
The Virtual Village is a one-of-a-kind, unique program to North Dakota, and that will certainly be a lasting legacy and something, again, that the nation will be able to learn about, especially with technology going so fast. This is the first of its kind.
Through this way, there will be a box for you to deposit your 3D glasses. And then I will let
We can't travel back in time. We can kind of bring time up to us in a sense. You know, we can create this world the way we've made it look like and do as much as we can to give you the feel for being in that time and place. A few years ago, we got interested in computer applications in archaeology, ways of creating high-level visualizations that could be used to help understand the past. We started using laser scanners to scan artifacts and create three-dimensional models, creating databases online for people to go in and see those models. That got us into the idea of trying to recreate the sites from which these objects originally came. And to do that even on a slant, for example, the actual site, you'd have to reconstruct the entire village with all the materials inside. And even then, it's not going to be the same because a lived-in space is different from a maintained space. You know, grass is growing up over the lodges and everywhere. Well, it wouldn't have been there. People live there. They're crawling up on top of the lodge or sitting up there. They're moving around, horses going through, dogs. You can't capture that in a physical reconstruction. So what we can provide is the context for all that to occur. So it's context. It's creating the experience, something of a feel for what a village may have been like that you cannot get. As nice as the physical park is, you just can't get it wandering through 2, 3, 5 earth lodges.
In memory of all those young men and young women who used to live here many years ago. Those young men and those young women were our ancestors, our families, our relatives, our friends.
There were several elements that we had to get right. And first and foremost was scholarship. We wanted the scholars that came in, and just a number of people who are able to present the Indian side of the story.
Honey in the evening, when the sweet grass smells so strong, go walking by the willows, honey, there I'll be along. Way out ya hare o yo, hare o ya hare o. Way out ya hare o yo, hare o ya hare o. Honey don't.
There's still a lot of people that speak the language, sing the songs in the language. We think it's important to hold on to our language and our way of life. Somebody had once told me, well, you can't be traditional. You guys drive cars, you're on computers. And I thought, what are you talking about? Culture is morals and values and how you live your life.
I hope that people are inspired to understand, to learn, to embrace Indian cultures. I hope that the American Indian people feel stronger about who they are. I think that one of the most important things that we have to do is we have to get children involved. I think that our youth have to be inspired by who they are as well. That when they start to see their elders, their community, their culture valued by people from the outside, rather than having to go someplace else to find that value, you know, that it's at home. It's something that they carry with them that will make it stronger.
Were those the medicine ones? These ones were the medicine ones. These are the medicine bags. These are the trunks, right? To carry bigger items. And these are used for the smaller items. And these are all handmade by the students at Timbunes.
I know right now, because of the interest in Lewis and Clark, there has been a lot of interest in oral tradition, oral history. Well, we've gone through a lot of crises, starting with the smallpox epidemics and then up through the reservation system period where the government sequestered us here on this plot of land we call the Fort Berthold Reservation. It's been a long process, I guess, and we are on our way to, I guess, reestablishing our population.
This bicentennial has opened up a lot of dialogue within communities as people start to look at who they are. After the bicentennial, I anticipate what we're also building out there are advocates, that people are going to hear about Indian people, Indian culture, and they're going to respond in a way of knowing, of understanding. And we're going to be prepared too, because then we are going to have our stories ready for them. We're going to have our culture, our history, ready for presentation on our terms.
We're hosting a signature event in 2006. The anticipation is that we're probably going to be looking at high numbers of tourism simply because of the fact that we are 3 tribes that are actually hosting one of the 15 signature events. There's so much to plan for. The area we're having this signature event is the peninsula area where the Four Bears Casino and our tribal administration office is located. And it's just a beautiful area there.
I think one of the things that we need to understand is that we don't live in the same place that Lewis and Clark encountered us or where they met us. We're still on the Missouri River, our home, but we've only been in this area for about 50 years, and so we've sort of been in this process of rebuilding. And so tourism infrastructure was really not a #1 priority for the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Nation, building schools and roads and hospitals, and the necessities has been the priority for our tribe. But we realize that tourism and cultural heritage tourism and nature-based tourism are one of the fastest growing industries in North Dakota. And so keeping that in mind, we realize that when people come through here, they want to learn about the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Nation. They want to learn about our traditional and contemporary culture and life ways. And in order to present that story from our point of view, from our perspective, we need to have infrastructure.
We do have a very nice casino which has added some rooms on, and we do have a couple other hotels in town. We're also going to look at smaller towns that are surrounding the Newtown area and let them, hopefully be able to take some of the influx of the people. And we're in the process right now working with the National Signature Event Committee, the Tourism Department, and the reconstruction of an Earth Lodge village right along the river. And that'll be a real live Earth Lodge where people can actually rent it out like a motel. We're looking at really establishing our RV parks. The RV parks, we're going to really do some high maintenance on them, paving the roads and fixing the sidewalks and making sure the electricity hookups are there. And we're also going to put up a teepee village. We say 50 teepees, that's 50 rooms.
One of the things that tourism does is it adds to the existing economy. One of the things that we have very lacking in rural tribal environments, of course, are jobs and the businesses. This adds the dynamic of other income coming in so that people can develop the small businesses and they will thrive from the standpoint of having added income. Those added jobs then are exponential because then people in the reservation have additional dollars to spend as well.
I think the other thing that people will recognize about the Mandan and Hidatsa and Arikara, and really all tribes along the trail, is that tribes were very generous. They were very hospitable, and they were very kind to Lewis and Clark. And when people travel through tribal nations today, I think they're still greeted with that same hospitality and generosity. They're still welcomed into Indian country, and the Native American people continue to share so much. And I think we have a lot to share in our history and our culture.
I'd like to invite everybody to come to Stany Rock. Come see me. I can tell them a whole world of history because I really love my land and my people.
We're hosting a signature event in 2006. We're hoping that when the people leave from our signature event, they'll go back and tell people that they know come out to the Mandan, Hidatsa, Arikara Nation, the Missouri River tribal people, and see they have a lot to offer. I think they're going to find out that North Dakota is not some real cold iceberg and that we do have really, really beautiful land. I think they're going to have a wonderful experience coming to North Dakota.
Well, my dear citizens, good morning. Let me say first how perfectly delighted I am to come to Dakota.
I'm a historian, and for me to see people reading history, interested in history, talking about history, I never thought that would happen in my lifetime. This is great.
I would like them to take away a feeling of the pride and the heritage and the culture that North Dakota has, both in the history of the state and the area and the history of the Indian nations that are here. We have a huge story to tell. And I think we will be entertaining a lot of people, and I think they'll be learning a lot about us.
I'll be darned.
Did you make the paper
He made the
again?
paper.
I think the key thing to remember about this bicentennial, it is not the culmination of these past 12 years of activity that many of us have put in. It's not the pinnacle of anything. It's the beginning. This bicentennial launches the beginning of a new way that the whole world is looking at North Dakota, a state that up until now has been the least visited among the 50. Generations from now, when tourism is not our second largest industry, but our largest industry, people will look back to the Lewis and Clark bicentennial and they'll say, that's when it started. That's when the world discovered North Dakota, which is a land of legends.
Production funding for North to the Mandan Nation is provided by a grant from USDA Rural Development and by the members of Prairie Public.